Hey guys, in this lecture let's look at some of the Numpy arrays. Okay, how do you create arrays, some specific types of arrays and things like that. So to do that, instead of working in IPython shell, now let's work in the Jupyter Notebook. So to do that, let's do Jupyter and Notebook. Let's fix that, Jupyter, and press enter. It's going to open up a notebook in your browser. And I'm just going to bring that guy over here. This is how your Jupyter Notebook is going to look like. Let's just create, let's just use any notebook. You can create a new notebook by selecting the kernel and just go from there. So in our case, let's go over here and let's remove all these other old guys. And yeah, so we have this, you can by the way name this to anything you want. Let's just do creating Numpy arrays. Let's rename that. Let's import. The first thing is to always import the Numpy library. So import Numpy as np. That's the alias we're going to use. Shift enter. Or you can also do this run guy here, as we looked into our Jupyter Notebook overview lecture. So just shift enter and that guy's loaded in your environment. Now, so how do you create arrays in Python? There are a couple ways of doing that. There is an inbuilt way of creating arrays, which is this comes with your standard Python 3.3 and onwards, is the import array library. Shift enter. And how do you create arrays is, let's first create a list. Alright, let's first create a list here. Range, press enter. Awesome. So as you can see, I just created a list here using this range, Python range method. And then we have a list of 10 integers, right? Starting from 0 and going to 9. How can I create arrays using this? So let's just specify that by capital A and array dot array. You gotta specify the type you want, which is the integer. Always remember, arrays can only take one data type. You can have multiple values, but the data type should be same. It should be integer, it should be float, but it should always be numeric. Okay. Let's just specify L, press enter. Let's just enter. As you can see, we have this array here. This is, by the way, Python's built-in array. We haven't looked at Numpy yet, but I'm just showing you the built-in Python array. As you can see, the first thing here is I, which is a code for integer. That it is denoting that all these values here, all these array values here are integers. So yeah, so this is Python's built-in array. Okay, now let's look at this guy here, which is the first one we imported. Import Numpy as np. Now let's look at how you can use Numpy to create arrays. Okay, so I'm gonna look at np. Let's just say np.array, and I can just pass that list that I created up there, and let's see what I get. As you can see, I passed this list, and I got this array here. So I'm using array method of Numpy, np.array, and pass that list, and I get a list. Sorry, I get an array here. So yeah, so there are multiple ways of creating arrays. This way that we looked at is actually creating array from Python list. There are other ways as well. By the way, just make sure that list actually contains value of the same data type. Sometime the list might be something like this, right? L1 equals 1, 2, 3, 4.5, 5.3, and 8, whatever. So you can see this is like a mix of integer and the float values. So let's see what's going to happen here. Press enter and let's just see L1. So yeah, so this is our list, and now let's try to convert this into a Numpy array. np.array L1, right? Press enter. So as you can see, all all the values or all the elements of this array, they became float. 1 point, 2 point was actually just integer before, but they all became float. Why is that? So as you can see, integer or float, they're all numeric, right? So whenever Numpy array sees there is a float and integer mixed up, it tries to upcast it to float. So if there is a mix of integer and float, the array that we will get will be upcasted to float. So all the elements, regardless of float, integer, they will all be float now. Okay, as you can see in this case, these were integer, they became float. Float remains float, which is fine, but this again, this integer 8 became 8 point. So Numpy array actually upcasted the integers to float so that we have the same data type amongst these array values. Okay, so this is how you create a Numpy array using Python list. By the way, you can also, there's one more way of specifying a data type in the array, which is using, for example, I'll show you an example. 1, 2, 3. Let's take these 4 integers, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also specify explicitly specify d type keyword, and you can say it should be type float 32. So now what's going to happen is all these integers will actually become a float type because we specified this keyword data type, a d type, and I just press enter, and as you can see, it's of the data type float 32, and all these integers have become float now because we explicitly specified this guy. So guys, that's pretty much it as far as creating arrays from Python list are concerned. We're going to look at a lot more ways of creating arrays in the future lecture, so stay tuned.